temperature of the world will go up, and that is the biggest thing of the changes, because from that stems all sorts of things. Stems climate change.
David Attenborough has been the voice of natural history shows all around the world for more than 6 decades. He's a natural historian and English broadcaster. He's primarily renowned for his writing and public speaking. His contributions to wildlife filmmaking and broadcasting are unrivaled. His proclivity for taking on new initiatives and converting them into critically acclaimed broadcasts has earned him the title of legend in his business. Even his harshest opponents praise his broadcast as the pinnacle of public service radio. He's the first recognized broadcaster to have addressed this issue with earnestness. He examined the most recent discoveries, earned the scientific community's trust, developed new shots, concentrated on events, and intentionally limited his on-screen appearance. His wildlife series has had such an influence that he's been dubbed the Great Communicator and the Peerless Educator. David Attenborough has received 32 honorary degrees from British universities. He has at least 15 newly found species and fossils named after him, as well as 1 genus named after him. He was knighted in 1985 and received around 32 different honors. David Attenborough is the only individual to have received a BAFTA in black and white, color, high definition, and 3D. The Royal Society also bestowed upon him the Michael Faraday Prize. In 1981, he was awarded the Commander of the Royal Victorian Order, CVO, for his work on Queen Elizabeth II's Christmas program.
Change are going to be enormous unless we do something about it. And this is the very last moment when we have in which we can actually hope to stem some of these disasters that we're seeing.
If you enjoy these videos, please remember to hit the like button, as it does help us out a lot. And comment below who your favorite celebrity is that you'd love to see in an upcoming video. His full name is Sir David Frederick Attenborough, but is also known as David. He was born May 8, 1926 in Middlesex, United Kingdom, making him 95 at the time of this production. He stands 178 centimeters or 5 feet 10 inches tall. In September 2020, Kensington Palace released images of the Cambridges with David Attenborough, which showed a present presented by Prince George by Attenborough, a prehistoric shark tooth from the long-extinct megalodon. Sir David discovered the teeth on a family vacation to Malta in the late 1960s, lodged in the island's soft yellow limestone, which was put down 23 million years ago during the Miocene era. However, the gift has generated debate, with Maltese officials asking whether the tooth was ever Attenborough's to donate. They added more that the British have a lengthy history of claiming valuable antiquities from other countries. Sir David Attenborough has been actively working for charities too. Sir David has been a supporter of the World Land Trust, WLT, from its formation in 1989, when John Burton, WLT's CEO, was one of its founders. Sir David became WLT's formal patron in 2003 as a result of John's imaginative and inventive approach to generating funds to safeguard rainforests and other key endangered animals. And he's been a supporter of the Trust's aims and objectives ever since. Sir David has also been participating in politics lately. In 2013, Attenborough joined rock guitarist Brian May and Slash in criticizing the UK government's badger cull program by performing a song devoted to badgers. In August 2014, Attenborough was one of 200 public people who signed a letter to The Guardian expressing their hope that Scotland will vote to remain a member of the United Kingdom in the referendum on the topic scheduled for September. Prior to the 2015 UK general election, Attenborough was one of numerous celebrities who supported the Green Party's Carolyn Lucas parliamentary campaign. In an interview with Radio Times, Attenborough joked about Donald Trump's surge during the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Do we have any influence or control over American elections? We don't, of course. It's not a horrible idea to shoot him. In a 2020 interview, Attenborough criticized excess capitalism as a source of ecological imbalance, stating that the excesses that the capitalist system has brought us have got to be curtailed somehow, and that greed does not actually lead to joy, though he added, that doesn't mean that capitalism is dead. In 1950, David Attenborough married Jane Elizabeth Ebsworth Oriel. They have 2 children together, Robert, a retired lecturer, and Susan, a former primary school headmistress. Jane died in 1997 as a result of a brain hemorrhage.
We could do. So why do we waste all our money on the army? Why don't we take that money from the national budget and turn it into rewilding and ecotourism?
David Frederick Attenborough was born in Isleworth, West London on May 8, 1926. His father was the principal of the University College of Leicester, Frederick Attenborough. His mother, Mary, looked after the children at home, and the family also cared for 2 Jewish immigrant girls from Europe. David and his older brother Richard attended Archibald Belaney's speech at De Montfort Hall in 1936. David was impacted by his environmental advocacy. David was a student at Wigston Grammar School for Boys, Clare College, Cambridge University gave him a scholarship, and he graduated in 1945 with a degree in natural sciences, studying geology and zoology. In 1947, he was drafted into the Royal Navy and spent 2 years stationed in North Wales and Firth of Forth. After leaving the Navy, Attenborough worked as an editor for a publishing business, editing children's science textbooks. He quickly got disillusioned with the employment and applied for a position as a radio discussion producer with the BBC in 1950. Although he was turned down for this position, his CV piqued the interest of Mary Adams, the head of the talks department of the BBC's embryonic television program. Attenborough, like the majority of Britons at the time, did not possess a television and had only seen one show in his life. He did, however, accept Adams' offer of a 3-month training course and joined the BBC full-time in 1952. Attenborough's involvement with natural history programming began with a 3-part series, Animal Patterns, which he produced and hosted. The animals from London Zoo were featured in the studio-bound show, with naturalist Julian Huxley explaining their use of camouflage, aposematism, and courting displays. Attenborough met Jack Lester, the curator of the zoo's reptile house, through this show, and they agreed to film a series on an animal collecting trip. As a result of Lester's illness, Attenborough became the presenter of ZooQuest, which debuted in 1954. When he became the controller of BBC Two in 1965, he incorporated a condition that allowed him to continue creating programs on an as-needed basis. David expanded the BBC Two programming to include music and natural history, resulting in a diverse mix of shows such as Man Alive, Monty Python's Flying Circus, and The Money Program. In 1967, BBC Two was the first British station to broadcast in color, and David introduced televised snooker as well as rugby league through BBC Two Floodlit Trophy. Other notable efforts by Sir David Attenborough include a 13-part series on the history of Western art and civilization in 1969. He was elevated to the position of Director of Programs, but he departed in 2013. Along with the Life series, Attenborough has worked on various television documentaries, primarily in the natural history category. In 1987, he developed and presented The First Eden, a series on man's impact on the natural history of the Mediterranean region. 2 years later, in Lost Worlds, Vanished Lives, he displayed his interest for fossils. Between 1977 and 2005, Attenborough narrated every episode of Nature on One, a BBC One wildlife series that aired 253 times. It had an 8 to 10 million weekly viewership at its peak, and the 1987 episode Meerkats United was chosen the finest wildlife documentary of all time by BBC viewers. He's also voiced over 50 episodes of BBC Two's flagship wildlife program, Natural World. He narrated the BBC wildlife specials, each concentrating on a charismatic animal and shown to commemorate the Natural History Unit's 40th anniversary in 1997.
I was here 25 years ago, and this was a meadow in which there were cows, and this is a now tropical rainforest. 25 years, that's all.
Being 95 years old and having worked for the BBC for most of his life, he is understandably one of BBC's highest earners, earning almost $1 million a year from the British Broadcasting Corporation. Sir David has a net worth of $35 million. Sir David owns a house in London. Sir David owns a Land Rover.